All right. Last section. Unless God has some kind of surprise for everybody. I don't know. He's predictably unpredictable. Anyway.
He is.
So, but his unyielding love. I think this is the thing that solidifies and anchors everything. Right?
How so?
Well, his love gives you forgiveness in the first place.
Okay.
The understanding of other people is brought by the temperance of that grace to understand other people, because you've been given forgiveness and grace, and therefore it's not a big deal to understand where someone else is coming from.
Right.
The territory, obviously, well, what's the value of the territory? The value of the territory is of the king.
Right.
So the kingdom is in direct value to the one who's ruling it.
This is where the unyielding love comes in.
Right. So because he loves us, there's no reason to be in terror, because his love is so fierce that it's like, I'm not letting squat happen to you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have a troop to where I care about the ones who are outside my kingdom, and I want them in here.
Yeah.
So sometimes we gotta be special ops.
Yeah.
And everyone has a special ops badge, and one day you will be on call.
Yeah. So, right. So I think that in order to really understand unyielding love, I think you have to look at yielding love.
Yes, and he was saying something about this too. So yes, go ahead. Yeah.
And so I think that you introduced that well when you talked about. You just said it a few minutes ago. You said caring about the people who are inside your camp, but also caring about the people who are outside your camp. I think that's the unyielding part.
Yeah.
Right. Because yielding love is, I'll yield to those who are inside my camp, but those who are outside, right, let them go.
Yeah.
But I think the unyielding part is never giving up on what appears to be impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Those that are far off. That's the unyielding part, right? I'm on sales today because I was thinking about this during Bible study today. So, right, the salesman who keeps knocking on doors even after the no's.
Yeah.
Right. The person who keeps smiling even after the rejection. It is the husband who keeps loving his wife even after she's not, right, fulfilling what his expectations of a wife would be, or a wife who continues to respect her husband when he is not providing her the security or the protection as she would want it. Right? That's the right. So it's easy to yield and to be like, you know what? Nope, I've had enough. I'm not doing that. The challenging part is to not yield, especially when you consider the other outside. Right? Because once somebody becomes an outsider, then right, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. So this is something that I heard this guy give a presentation, and he was making the case that God does not have unconditional love. He was saying that you don't see that anywhere in Scripture. He was saying that I will love those who I love, and I'll hate those who I hate.
That's true.
He was saying that, people, exactly what we're talking about, under the covering.
Yeah.
I'm loving those people, right? But those who are, outside of that, it's like, this is what I got for you.
Yep.
Right? But at the same time, too, I was like, the fact that the redemption, the invitation even exists for everybody is that unconditional love that they're talking about.
Yes.
So it's kind of like you have this yielding and unyielding. It's like you have the yielding part, yielding love, which is that I'm not going to cripple my standards for your foolishness. Right? He's not interested in being your best friend to stroke his ego.
Right.
He's not interested in compromising his principles and his judgments and him being the commander of the universe just so he can go ahead and be like, well, can you please? He's not begging anybody.
Right. So I think that's really a sharp point, though, right? Unyielding in terms of invitation, but yielding in terms of results, because everybody doesn't get the same thing. Yeah. That's a sharp point.
Yeah.
Right. Unyielding and invitation. So we reach out to everyone the same in love. We offer the same offering to everybody, and not everybody takes it.
Yeah.
So then when it's time for the results, right, when it's time for the gifts to be passed out during Christmas,
yeah,
right, not everybody gets the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the yielding comes in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So then there is the questions that, is that fair? Because then you get into the concept of pots of destruction versus pots he's going to be using for different purposes, right?
Okay.
So then we get into, a little bit of things like free will and things like that, it's like, which is a tough one, right?
This is a tough one.
But, we getting skirt. So anyway, is when I look at free will, I kind of look at it like I can't look at it like quite as a movie that's already happened, and yet at the same time, Scripture seems to kind of indicate that. It's almost like God is present with us and fulfilling everything that needs to happen in the past, and also He's with us right now in spirit in the New Jerusalem with us right now. And also, it's like He's all over time. Like, time's right here, and He's just like, or time's right here, and then God's over here.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how to conceptualize that. And I actually take comfort in the fact that I don't know how to conceptualize that. Because, to me, I don't necessarily want a God. I've heard this argument before that, do you want a God that you can understand everything about? If He's supposed to be truly outside of the imaginations of man, then I think that little concepts like this, you can get a shadow of it, but not the complete picture of it.
Yeah, I have to say, that is a sharp point, that I do not want a God that I understand everything about. Right? If I can understand Him, that means that He's no higher or wiser than me. Now, for me, that's kind of that's a shaky thought.
Yeah. Because I think even the concept of this podcast, what I'm saying, we would never probably put together forgiveness, understanding, territory, terror, and then His unyielding love.
Yeah.
It's like, well, didn't understand it, but we explored it.
Yeah, but I want to talk about free will in a slightly different context.
Okay.
Because I think that it's fair to look at free will as kind of the movie that's already been made. I get that, and I see that. And it's, I guess, fair to be a little disturbed by that.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason why I was disturbed by that in the past was because I felt like it opened up the possibility of God torturing mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say that a little bit better. In other words, there are people who want God's love who He's not giving it to. Which I absolutely think is not the case.
Yeah.
I think that the people who want His love get it lavishly.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody who won't receive God's love, it is the people who absolutely don't want it.
Yeah.
So this is not God. He's not holding out this impossible carrot. Well, I know you want it. Right? I know you want this result.
Right.
But no, I'm not going to give it to you.
Right.
I don't think that's the conversation God is having at all.
Yeah. And I think,
so in that way, I think it's justice. You get what you've been begging for. In fact, while you say what you're going to say next, I'll find that passage and read to you where Paul talks about this, because I think it's really profound.
Okay. So I think that that's the problem that I have with the free will argument being a bad thing.
Yes.
It's like, because it's kind of, actually, I think it's kind of funny how they get mad at God for, there not being real choice and everything, but some will believe in fatalism, which is the exact same thing, but it's dictated by your genes. So anyway.
Yes.
But that's beside the point. But I think that free will works this way. I think that it works in that God is giving everyone the same opportunity.
Yes.
And it goes back to what you were saying, so
Yeah.
I agree with that. He's given the same opportunity to everybody. And because you have the ability to say, get lost.
Yep.
People blame God for telling God to get lost.
Right.
So
Right.
So it's like, well, the killing of children, for example, God allows that. It's like, because God gave mankind dominion, and that's his word. He gave mankind dominion over the earth.
Yeah.
And if he breaks his word, he stops being God, essentially.
Right.
He is fully what he is. Which is why he was saying that dominion is given over to man. Mankind is a spirit inside of a dirt body. And when you look at Jesus, you see exactly what God was actually doing. He put himself inside of a dirt body and then intervened.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the free will thing has always been there, but he does not have invitation. He does not have the dominion to break his own word. So therefore, when the whole temptation thing happened and everything, he was not able, bound by his word, to intervene because he had given dominion over to mankind.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, it's like what he did with Christ is really, really extraordinary, because he found a way inside of human history to do what he wanted to do, to redeem mankind, and had all the options in the world to not do that, but he went ahead and did it anyway. So when it comes like to choice, to free will, he doesn't even have the ability necessarily, except through prayer, to go in there and stop you from doing something stupid.
Yes.
Because he said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
He said at the beginning, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to break that.
Yep.
So when you say, God, get lost, I'm going to go ahead and kill this kid, that was on you.
Yeah. Now he may intervene on behalf of the child, and there are instances where he has.
Right.
But that him not intervening does not make that his fault.
Right.
So here we go. I found it. Romans chapter 1. I'm going to read two verses. They say the same thing. They're very close together. So Romans chapter 1, verse 24. Therefore, God gave them up in the lust of their own hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Now that's verse 24 and 25. Here's verse 26. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. Right? In both instances, this free will is not God torturing mankind. This is God giving mankind what they ask for.
Right. He has judged that you don't want him around.
Right.
So therefore, there are things, and I do mean things, that are out there that hate your guts because, you share the image of God. So therefore, they're going to vandalize that and convince you to vandalize yourself.
Yeah. And these things that you give yourself up to, that he allows you to give yourself up to, hurt you.
Yeah.
Because they are in the territory that does not care and nurture you.
Right.
Care for and nurture you, right? That's the territory that they rule and reign over.
Yes.
They're not in the territory that loves you, cares for you, nurtures you, edifies you, builds you up, encourages you, says good things about you, wants the best for you. That's not the territory they're in.
Right. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like he's trying to protect us.
Yeah.
But we can always say no.
Yes.
And we can always think that we got a better idea or deal.
Yeah.
And someone can stubbornly walk in that their entire lives.
Yeah. And
so therefore, he knows. I think that he knows the heart of a person. Well, he says that I know you from the very hairs on your head. It's like, I know how stubborn that you're actually going to be.
Yeah.
I know your character. I know what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. It's like, I know you that intimately. We don't, though.
Yes.
So therefore, as evangelists, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't know, you better ask somebody.
Right.
You better tell somebody about what's going on, because I don't know. And again, the invitation. Well, how come God intervenes here, doesn't intervene here? Yeah. I think it's a matter of invitation.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of, was through prayer, was so and so invited? Were they invited into the lives of those kids, children, or whatever it may be? Yeah. Was the prayer then, it's like, did it go up, and then the person that was supposed to intervene or just say this or whatever they're saying was like, no, I'm not hearing, I could be hearing that right.
Yeah.
It couldn't be me.
Yeah.
And then they wander off somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And then the guy's like, you're supposed to be helping them, and you didn't, and now they're dead.
Yeah.
Now, these are the heavier thoughts that like, kind of keep me up at night sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, how much, in terms of my own self-image, how much in my base have I been rather than being in his territory? How much in my territory? Because my territory, I look at the stuff around me and I say that, well, this is who I am. This is the construct of who I am. But when I go into... Oh, sorry about that, guys.
No, that's not your fault. That is actually an emergency alert.
Okay, so we're back now.
Flash flood warning.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back into it. So when we're talking about, you know, territories and everything, when I look around me, I'm saying that, okay, this is who I am. But when I look around him, this is who, when I go into his territory, I look around and this is who he says that I am. It's hard to believe that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because it goes back into, you know, proper environment and things like that, you know. I wouldn't have thought that God wanted this, and this out of me.
Yeah.
I'm just me. But maybe that's the error of thinking. Is that's the wrong territory of thinking. It's like, no, I say you're this. You say you're this. One of us is wrong. I don't think it's gonna be God. You know? And his unyielding love is what supports all the crazy things he actually wants you to do. So, because he loves the way that he does, Moses saw himself as one thing, which is why he tried to form a rebellion by killing the Egyptian in his younger years. And he was already going to be, just talking about the will of God again, he was already going to be a freedom fighter. Already going to be that. Yeah. That was the will of God for his life, and that's why you see parallels between when someone tries to do it without God and when someone tries to do it with God.
Yep.
In the Bible. You see it's the same thing, but it just looks different when you partner with God.
Yeah.
So when you look at Moses, because of God's love, when Moses walked into God's territory, he was able to do extraordinary things. Completely extraordinary things, because God was like, let my people go.
Yeah.
Let my people go. And because of that love, that unyielding love, where he's like, okay, they're supposed to be with me. Get them.
Yeah.
And because Moses said yes. You know? So I think about that sometimes. I think about whether or not that is our story, or it's supposed to be our story. Yeah. Are we a Moses to somebody? Probably.
Yes, probably. Now, whether we're behaving like Moses is a different podcast. But are we right? Do we have that call? Do we have that ability? Absolutely.
Yeah. It just depends on what territory we're actually in. Because
what territory you're in. That's correct. That's correct.
You can get pre-Moses, which was
the Prince of Egypt.
Right? So you think that when he does something like that, you know, that would cause a bunch of rebellion, everything else, you know, and none of it mattered.
Yeah.
Because he did things by his own wisdom, his own understanding, and got what he got. But when he did it God's way, because of God's unyielding love, he wasn't going to fail Moses. All he said he had to do was just stay focused in on him and do what I tell you to do. And everyone got free. You know?
Yeah.
But even in that group of people was people that he had unyielding, or I mean that he had yielding love for.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the whole serpent thing, the whole golden calf thing and everything is like, okay, let's root out all the
20,000 people.
Yeah.
I think it's 20,000.
Yeah. Something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but even then, right? Because of the time that they were living under, and seminary they call it the dispensation. Even then, those 20,000 people who were judged were not condemned to eternal damnation, but their bodies had to pay for the sin that the body had committed. When you really think about that, it's pretty profound.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, had to get further into that sometime.
Yeah, yes. That would be a great podcast for us to deal with.
Yeah. So dispensations are that. So, are the rabbis saying that?
That's what the rabbis say. Yes. They're very interesting when they talk about how people are judged and why. That not all judgment, not everybody who died was condemned to hell. Some people are, but some people aren't. How they died, kind of talks about what their condemnation may be. So some of those people may have been, but you just can't assume that everybody who died was condemned to hell.
Interesting. So why were they saying that they because we might be able to get into this a little bit. So why were they saying that they didn't go to hell or weren't judged that way?
Well. So again, they were under the law, and so being under the law in that way, even though they violated the law and had to die because they were under the law and because of the time that they were living in. When you die under the law, right, then you still technically die under God's protection. Right. Now, again, that's not truth in every case, so it's really, we have to look at them individually to really get good wisdom on this. But it's really interesting. Right. God was judging sin, not the people sometimes. Fascinating.
That is fascinating. Yeah, I had to get into that sometime. Shamar likes to look at the Jewish commentary a whole lot,
I do.
Because it's because it is like, because I think the way you described the Bible is that it's kind of written in shorthand.
It is,
and it's like these are the main points, but the oral tradition and history stretches it out like way more. This is what was actually happening at this time.
Yeah.
This is why God said to do this. This is why God said to kill this many people because, these people were actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't that God trying to be mean. It was the fact that they were like sacrificing their children to other gods and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that probably shouldn't stop anyway.
Yeah.
So he had a problem with that, and it's like, okay, I'll send in my crew to deal with all that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be Jewish, but I think when I read a Jewish document, one of the things that I love about the rabbinic commentaries is that they provide tremendous context for the text, what was going on in that day. That, I think, is an invaluable resource. I think it's the same thing for how you can read the Constitution. If you read it based on modern day interpretation, it'll take you one place. But if you read it based on interpretation of the framers, the founders, it takes you to a whole different place.
Yeah. Does that mean you're a Black Hebrew Israelite?
I am not a Black Hebrew Israelite. Which again is a different podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to my brothers. I think we disagree on that point. Shout out to my brothers.
That's the fancy clothes and smoke cannabis clothes.
Yeah,
anyway, I'm sorry.
Now you're just picking a
I'm
fight.
sorry.
This is the end of the podcast.
I'm just sorry. Not really. Anyway, so but no. Shalom to you. But that unyielding love, I think, is what binds it all together. Because he said, it says in 1 Corinthians 13, if I, etc., don't have love, I ain't squat. I'm nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that when you think about the King's love and the might of that love and the consistency of that love, I think that being in that territory leads you to all these things that have affected your self-image and renews your mind to something new. Because then you're not being unloving by doing forgiveness. Your health improves. I think that you have understanding, which is why you're able to make better decisions about what you need to do next. I think that remaining in that territory is the best thing for you. And I think that you're not as afraid because, if you love your kid, there is nothing, you will say this to your child all the time, there is nothing I won't do for you, son or daughter.
Yep.
You should feel perfectly safe with me. I'm going to defend you with my very life.
Yeah.
And God help whoever dishonors you. Right? So, looking at it from that perspective, I think that there's a lot less to worry about and freak out about than we're thinking that we need to be freaking out and worrying about.
Yeah. Nothing to add. That's beautiful.
Okay. But all right. That ends today's podcast. And first time on Facebook, so once again, Erica, how you doing? So for people on the podcast, a couple of people have dropped by and everything. So she enjoyed herself, it seems like. Anyway, there are ways to support us in the links in the description below as I post them and things like that. Be on YouTube and Facebook as well. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we can more than likely see you next week and everything. It's been a lot of fun and been an adventure to say the least whenever we do these because I don't know, we don't know. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us and we'll see you next week.
Peace.